All right. Hello again, Avengers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is daily vlog number something large, 43, something or other. The number will be right in the title. So today, this is why I have trust issues. So yesterday, there was a kind of uneventful Nintendo Direct that everyone is freaking out about. Which again was not bad, but there just really wasn't anything to do it. They announced a few new games that I really couldn't care about less, and that was about it. Japan apparently had a much better one, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm not going to go into it right now, but people are very, very mad at Japan right now. Or rather, they're mad at Mother 3. But anyway, the other thing that happened that not as many people were talking about was the Elden Ring DLC that's coming out in, I think, June. Got its first, like, gameplay trailer kind of thing. It's 3 minutes long. It's a good trailer. It got me excited for it. And it got lots of people like flipping out about how excited that they are about it. Because when Elden Ring first launched, it was kind of floated around that there was going to be no DLC for it or anything like that. It was just going to be its own game, and then that was going to be it. And then the announcement for the DLC coming happened late last year, and people freaked out because we weren't expecting it. And now we have a date, and we've seen footage of it. It looks really, really cool. So imagine my surprise when I was scrolling through Facebook. I get it. That was my first mistake, was scrolling through Facebook. But I regret my actions. I will do my absolute best to not do it again. Scrolling through Facebook, and I saw an article where I believe it was from which one was it? It was from comicbook.com. Which comicbook.com, please fix your damn website, because they have this kind of title bar at the top of the website that shows like franchises, movie, TV, gaming. You know, the thing that most websites have at the top? They have it there, and then there's this kind of white space above it that looks like it's just a border. It's not. As you scroll down, you can see the article that you're reading just continues above the little menu bar. And it's the dumbest thing in the world. Either move the menu bar up or actually put something in that extra space. Because right now it looks like whoever your web design person is a moron. Anyway, the Facebook title, which I don't have anymore, because Facebook has updated since I saw this article. The Facebook title was something to the effect of possible sequel for our Miyazaki leaves door open for Elden Ring 2. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I like that. I'd like a sequel to Elden Ring. I think it would be stupid for them not to do a sequel to Elden Ring. It is the most profitable game that From Software has ever made. So yeah, I mean, it would make sense for them to make another. It was a really, really good game. It was one of my favorite games of all time. And then I scroll down the page, like 6 stories later, or 6 like slides later, I see another article by The Gamer that says Elden Ring won't be getting a sequel or any more DLC. And I thought, that's weird. Why would there be 2 stories coming out the same day as the DLC come out that are saying the exact opposite thing? And so I went and I read through both of them, and I found that they were both referencing an IGN article. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'll just read the IGN article and figure out what in the hell's going on, because both of them can't be right. So what it was IGN had an interview with Miyazaki, and for those of you that don't know, Miyazaki. What's Miyazaki's first name? It's not the Miyazaki that makes the Studio Ghibli films. completely different. Hidetaka Miyazaki. He works. I think he owns or something. I don't know. He's worked on all of the Dark Souls games from FromSoft. I have to find because I just had to scroll out. He's the guy that's kind of credited with creating the kind of Soulsborne style Giga games and Souls-like games, and for the most part, just about every one of the Dark Souls or Soulsborne games has been pretty critically acclaimed. Demon Souls was not super well received at first, but then Dark Souls came out and people loved it. Dark Souls 2 came out and some people loved it and some people hated it. It was very divisive. Dark Souls 3 came out and everybody loved it. Bloodborne came out and everybody loved it. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice came out and everybody loved it. And then finally Elden Ring came out like last year or the year before. Everybody loved it because they're phenomenal games. And so Miyazaki is well known in the industry and people really love him. And so this is the question that both articles are referencing. And so I'm going to read it in its entirety. Again, this is from an IGN article where one of their people actually interviewed him in Japanese and then they translated it into English. So, here's the question. Final question on the topic of Shadow of the Erdtree. Shadow of the Erdtree is the name of the DLC. So, final question on the topic of Shadow of the Erdtree. But do you envision this as the end of Elden Ring's story, or is there room for either more DLC or in Elden Ring 2 down the line? Now, obviously, wording for that is a little bit weird, and I assume that has to do something with the fact that it was translated from Japanese, and Japanese to English translations are weird in general because they're grammatically they're extremely different languages. So I'm assuming just a bad translation. So here's his response, Miyazaki. We don't want to say this is the end of the Elden Ring saga for now. I think we said a similar thing at the end of Dark Souls 3. We didn't want to flatten those possibilities or put a pin in them just at that time, and it's a similar story with Elden Ring. We don't want to discourage the possibilities for that. There might be more ideas in the future. We don't have any current plans to make a second DLC or a sequel, but we definitely don't want to snuff out that possibility. We think there could well be something in the future. So this one question created two extremely contradictory articles. And one of them says, hey, Elden Ring 2 is confirmed. And the other one says, this is the last we're ever going to see about Elden Ring, so you better like it. And this is why I have trust issues. And this is why I have such a big issue with the state of journalism in general right now. Because everybody has to have a spin. Again, these two articles both mislead their audiences pretty heavily. I would say the gamer audience or the gamer article where it blatantly says there's not going to be an Elden Ring 2 or more DLC is more of a blatant lie than the comicbook.com article where it leans a little bit more heavily on the making assumptions to the opposite, where it's like, no, he's saying that there's definitely going to be something. And I don't think the actual article itself says that they're definitely going to be making an Elden Ring 2, but they lean very heavily in the idea that there could be one. And again, the Facebook title for that article was, yeah, definitely going to be an Elden Ring 2. And it was monumentally stupid. And again, I just read the entire thing. Basically, what was said here was we don't currently have any plans to make a DLC or a sequel, but we're not opposed to it. We just don't currently have any plans for that. And that's perfectly fine. We have gotten so used to, at least for video game journalism, we have gotten so used to that before you release your product, you have already planned the entire franchise of this product and are already starting to work on the sequel to the sequel that you are currently making to the product that launches in a month. And this idea that we always have to be ready to put out the next thing. From things like, the Assassin's Creed series, where for a while, every year, there was a new Assassin's Creed. And so they always had to be in production for another one. And they can't understand the idea of, no, we just finished shipping the most popular game we have ever created in the history of this company, and our company does pretty well. So that's saying something. So no, we're not currently trying to make the next version of it, or we're not currently trying to make another DLC. We haven't launched the DLC that you're interviewing me right now. It's not done. So no, we're not currently planning on making another. We don't know how this one's going to go out. And so we have one side going, yep, that means they're going to do it. And then another side going, savor this last moment, for you shall never see the likes of Elden Ring ever again. And they're both just moronic. Again, I'm more upset with The Gamer because, again, blatantly, flat out, they just lie. There's nothing in here that says, no, we're never doing that. Like, the exact opposite is said in here of, no, we don't have any plans for it, but we certainly wouldn't rule that out, which is an incredibly smart thing to do. Again, they haven't launched the DLC. The DLC doesn't come out till June, I think. They're focusing on putting out the DLC, and then once the DLC comes out, they're going to have a bunch of patches and balancing and all this other stuff that they're going to have to do to make it work. So they have shit tons of work ahead of them right now. And that's not even to mention the fact that they launched Armored Core 6 last August to pretty critical acclaim. And if I remember correctly, I think they were also starting to work on a new franchise, though that might be another studio that I'm confusing them with. There's literally nothing in this that says, no, we're never going to make another Elden Ring game. But the article just wanted a clickbaity title, and they wanted to anger people and go, wait a minute, I want another one. I'm so angry at this. And I hate that bullshit. It is the dumbest thing in the world. And we see this just in journalism in general. We will see them take something completely out of context and then get people super riled up about it because they didn't take the time to actually, or they intentionally phrase it in a way to piss people off. A good example of this, there was some articles that came out, and one of the articles that about the new live-action Avatar series. And one of the articles that came out basically said that they're making Sokka less sexist. Which, when I read that article, and the article was kind of blatant about the idea, it's like, these morons are trying to fix something that they don't understand. Part of Sokka's character growth in the 3 seasons of Avatar: The Last Airbender he was very misogynistic. He was a young kid that was basically told to protect his entire village on his own. He was the oldest and most seasoned warrior in the village. So he was put into a really bad position. He didn't really have any male figures to emulate for a decent part of his growth, because his father went off to go fight in the war and to help the Earth Kingdoms. So you have this kid who grows up a little bit misogynistic, not completely, but very much undervalued the contributions of women. And then as he goes on, first of all, his sister can beat him to a bloody pulp using her water bending. And then he meets Toph, who can, beat the snot out of him when he wants. And even before that, he meets the Kyoshi Warriors, which are an entire female group of warriors from Kyoshi Island who model themselves after Avatar Kyoshi, the avatar before Roku, who's the avatar before Aang. And he has to come to terms with the fact that he had some very wrong opinions and ideas about women. And by the end of the show, he doesn't have any of those misogynistic tendencies, and he relies on Suki for a lot of different things, and he has the utmost respect for her and admires her. And it's a good character arc. It is a character that starts in one place and with one worldview, and due to the world making him question his worldview, he makes the active decision to change that worldview. And it's a good growth pattern for a character. And it's not an uncommon growth pattern. A lot of people have wrong ideas about the opposite sex when they are younger. That's why we have to be taught all these things. You know, I mean, if there's a movie that I absolutely love called The Little Rascals, which was a modern kind of retelling of the old Our Gang shorts from like the 20s and 30s, and it's a dumb kids movie. Like, that's all it is. But I used to watch it all the time as a kid. And in it, there's this scene where, again, the Little Rascals are this group that all belong to this club called the He-Man Woman Haters Club. And they all think women are gross and yuck. And then, so there's this scene where you have the girls having a slumber party and the boys having a slumber party. And it just keeps cutting between the two groups, talking about what the other gender does that's just wrong and gross. So this is an extremely common thing for kids to go through, and there are a lot of adults that never quite grow out of that misandrist or misogynist mindset because they were never taught correctly. That's basically what it is you have to, to take a line from a musical, you've got to be taught to hate and fear. I played Lieutenant Gable. I am a bass, and Lieutenant Gable is a tenor, and that was a hard role to play. Yeah, I mean, it's a part of growth from being children to adults. Is you think people that are different than you, just in general, are bad and wrong, and then as you grow and you experience more different cultures, different experiences, you start realizing, no, everybody's different, and that's 100% okay, and it doesn't make other people bad just because they're different than you, because you're different than them, and that doesn't make you bad. So, people were freaking out. They're like, oh, this woke nonsense, blah, 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 blah. Mostly because we have watched Avatar get butchered before. M. Night Shyamalan, shame on you. Shame on you. And it's generally done by people that don't understand the base material that they're adapting, and feel this feeling that, well, we have to elevate it because that was for kids and that was a TV show and this is a movie. Or in this particular instance, well, that was a cartoon, this is live action, and we have to have real things. And so everybody is freaking out about the fact that they made Sokka less sexist, and that's basically going to ruin the character. And I 100% was on that boat as well, because again, I have watched them butcher so many properties that I really, really loved by changing problematic things that weren't problematic. They were character growth moments, and they just didn't want to deal with that. Or they had an active disdain for the source material. So I look into a little bit further, and again, it's based on an interview, and it's based on a single question that had a single sentence response. So even less information than we have for this Elden Ring 2 nonsense. And it was basically, we made some changes to make Sokka slightly less sexist. If you watch Avatar: The Last Airbender, specifically the first season, there are a lot of things that Sokka does that in a children's cartoon is perfectly fine because everything is supposed to be kind of dialed up to 11. It's supposed to be a little bit nonsensical. But if you did that and if you said the things that he said in a live action setting with live action people, it just wouldn't carry very well because it seems absurd. There's such kind of they lean so heavily into the kind of misogyny aspect of it. It was basically supposed to be kind of a satirization of it. And so they take it to an extreme to show the absurdity of it. And Sokka is very, very quickly put in his place relative to the rest of this series. So the idea that they could do a direct translation of, like, they could just take the dialogue from the cartoon and just let live action actors to do it was never going to work. People would have hated it because it doesn't sound right. Again, it was perfectly fine for a cartoon show because, again, they had things like they would turn into little chibi versions of their characters when things happened. And Sokka was intended to be kind of the comic relief of everything that went on. And while, yes, Avatar The Last Airbender was a remarkably mature show for its at the time and had amazing storytelling, it was still a kid's show. And so when you do acting for children, you tend to ham it up a little bit and you tend to go a little bit over the top. So while I can't say this is for sure what happened, I'm going to go on the assumption that what they were referencing there was effectively just, yeah, we couldn't make Sokka the exact same character as he was in the cartoon because that character was a cartoon, and having a real person act like a cartoon doesn't translate well to film. It just doesn't. There was another thing that they were changing, and again, everyone's like, oh, they're adding all this woke stuff. Again, it's still theoretically possible that they did that. We have already watched them butcher the Avatar series more than once. Again, Legend of Korra, the first season was pretty good. Second season was okay. Third and fourth were mostly pointless. And the fourth season was just bad. And they completely butchered the source material and they ruined a lot of characters. Probably the one that got me the most upset is how they treated Toph, because all of the character growth that she had throughout the entire, she shows up in season 2. She's a huge part of season 2 and a huge part of season 3, and she shows real growth going from this very kind of sheltered, almost spoiled aristocrat that cared only about herself to being very much a team player and caring about other people and losing a lot of the kind of self-reliance that she had kind of shown for herself. And then we see her in The Legend of Korra, and not only has she forgotten everything that she learned while traveling with the Avatar, but she also abandoned her children. And her kids never knew their father. She was probably one of the worst parental figures in all of Avatar. And it was just blatantly obvious that the writers didn't understand, and they understand the growth that she went through, and they just wanted to have a way to create some conflict in that. And it really sucked because she was a really great, interesting character that showed a lot of growth over the series. So the idea that this new Avatar series could absolutely butcher it is not even like, oh man, you're just betting, you're just being a contrarian. No, like if we look at history, there are more instances of them ruining Avatar than there are of them actually doing right by the series. If you look at everything else that they've done, whether it's video games, whether it was that god-awful movie, like every single time they tried to do this, they have ruined things. And the original creators of Avatar were a part of it, and then they dropped out after a couple years due to creative differences. So all the writing is on the wall that these guys are going to butcher this. But I think all the articles that we're writing on, again, are fixating on this tiny little thing that was taken out of context and tried to make it say something that it didn't. And again, we just see this over and over again. We saw it with that. We saw that the entire OGL debacle was one really dishonest journalist taking something completely out of context, lying about it, and then perpetuating those lies over and over and over and over and over again. And yeah, like we see this constantly in media in general, that they will just lie through their teeth to get people wound up about something. And it's not exclusive to one side of the political divide or the other. Literally, just journalism in general. It is extremely difficult to find journalists that are not making a spin to get people pissed off. And it really pisses me off. Which, again, is probably what they're wanting from me. So I'm playing into big journalism, whatever. But I'm hoping that enough people watch this that can understand that if you see an article that makes you feel a strong emotion written by a journalist, more likely than not, it's probably a lie. In some way, shape, or form. And I'd love to be wrong about it, but I have so many examples of them just doing this over and over and over and over and over again. Just for this DLC, this Shadow of the Erdtree stuff, and this interview from IGN, I have seen 3 different articles give 3 very different accounts of that one question. That's the only question that they cover in the entire article, is just talking about how, yes, there is going to be an Elden Ring 2. No, there isn't going to be an Elden Ring 2. It's so stupid. Stupid. So this is why I have trust issues. Anyway, I'm recording this earlier than any of my daily vlogs ever. I have not even gone to sleep yet. That is how upset I am about this. And I'm probably going to upload it before I go to sleep, just so I have an entire day where I don't have to do anything. It would be so nice. That's another one. There was an article that claimed that the PS5 is in the late stage of its lifespan, which a lot of outlets just went to going, yeah, Sony has admitted that PS5 is dead and PS6 is coming soon. No, they didn't. It was based on a mistranslation. The actual translation of that, again, it was a single question and a single line. And the actual translation was, we think the PS5 is in the latter half of its life cycle. So it is past the halfway point. It's been around for 5 years. So more likely than not, it's going to be around for another 4 to 5 years, which console lifespans is a long lifespan. So the idea that, PS5 is dead. Nope, they didn't say that in any way, shape, or form. You just mistranslated a single word and wrote an entire article about it. This happens so much, and I hate it. And journalists, like everyone's freaking out because all these journalists are getting fired. Do you want to know why you're getting fired? Because you're writing bullshit like this. If you were actually good at your job, you wouldn't be getting fired. And the companies that you worked for wouldn't be going bankrupt, because people would actually be able to read and pay for the stuff that you make instead of using ad blockers because they don't want to be overwhelmed with like 77,000 banner ads on a listicle about which cherry or which ring pop flavor are you. Like, it's just nonsense and stupid, and the state of modern journalism is insulting. Ugh. Anyway, that's my little rant for today. Hope you guys are having fun. I will try to come up with something better to talk about tomorrow. All right? See you guys next time. Bye-bye.